If you're watching this video right now, it's probably because of one of two different things. The first thing being, you've already seen my videos before, or you're a subscriber of my channel and you're just curious as to what I'm going to say on this subject. The second reason is that you might legitimately be new to metal, or you might not even be a metalhead, but you saw the thumbnail of this video or you saw the title and thought, hey, maybe I'll find some cool stuff in here. Maybe there will be some bands in here that might ease me into the metal genre. Because right now, metal is starting to be more popular than it's been in probably, I'd say, 24 or 25 years, around the turn of the century when nu metal was really big. Because right now we're seeing so many bands that are doing collaborations with people in other genres, and we're starting to see, you know, a lot of stuff going viral on TikTok and Instagram Reels and stuff where metal bands are getting a lot of attention right now. So just for the sake of this video, I'm going to assume that you are the second person that I listed, the person that's not super familiar with metal. And that's kind of how I'm going to deliver and talk about stuff in this. I'll probably give you a little more information than I normally would, just so maybe something catches your attention or you can get into something. Now, before we really dive in, I feel like I have to make a disclaimer. And for those of you that are new to metal, I don't want to discourage you, but the metal community can sometimes be shitty, for lack of a better word. And what I mean by that is very gatekeepy. There are a lot of metalheads out there that think that the metal bands they listen to are better than the ones you listen to, or they don't want normal people listening to metal because it ruins the genre and stuff like that. And I think that's all a bunch of bullshit. But I do just want to say that most of everything that I'm going to talk about in this video is subjective. It is my personal opinion. And I realize there might be some current metalheads out there that disagree with some of the things that I'm going to say. Maybe because of that gatekeeping mentality, or maybe because they just think I'm off base. And that's cool. Your opinion's your opinion. But I just want to say this is all subjective. There might be some bands that I don't talk about here that you think I should have. And if that's the case, then I don't know, maybe start a YouTube channel and make these lists. But the important thing that I would love to impress on everybody, regardless of what you like to listen to or anything like that, enjoy what you enjoy. Don't let anybody else's opinion ruin the bands that you like or the artists that you like. If you listen to music and it makes you happy, or it makes you feel good, or you connect with it emotionally, whatever it may be, listen to it and have no shame in enjoying it. Because I know for sure I listen to a ton of bands that other people would probably think I'm lame for listening to. And I don't care. So enjoy what you enjoy, love what you love, and let's dive into this. Now, when I listen to music, especially metal, I'm a sucker for audio quality, which is why I want to take a second to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Soundcore. They just released a brand new Bluetooth speaker called the Boom 2 Plus. And when they reached out to me and asked me if I would talk about it on my channel, I was like, well, I mean, I need to try it first. So they sent me one. And I gotta say, I'm pretty damn blown away by this. I mean, look at it. It lights up, and it doesn't even light up like that. You can press a button, change the colors on it. Or if you're annoyed by the colors, you can also hold the button and just turn it off. But pretty cool little feature. The sound quality on this thing actually is quite amazing. And I have tons of Bluetooth speakers from different brands and different companies. Sorry, dogs are barking. But even though I do have a ton of different Bluetooth speakers, this is the only one I've been using since I've gotten it. This thing's got 2+2 channel stereo. It's got two 50-watt woofers in here for pounding bass, and it also has two 20-watt tweeters to keep the music more clear while you're listening to it at louder volumes. But staying on the topic of the bass, because I feel like that's what makes this thing unique compared to the other Bluetooth speakers that I have, this thing has their brand new Bass Up 2.0 technology. So when you're normally listening to stuff on it, puts out about 100 watts of output. But on the top of the speaker, there's a Bass Up button. You turn it on, and that's going to put your output 40% more. You're going to get 140 watts of output from it, and it absolutely slams. But on top of that, this thing just has some really cool features, especially if you're an outdoorsy person or you're going to be out on the boat or out partying with friends and stuff. This thing is IPX7 waterproof, and it's floatable. At a full charge, it's got up to 20 hours of playtime. It has party cast, and you can link up to 100 different speakers together if you're doing some big outdoor thing. And it even has an app on your phone where you can customize the EQ and a bunch of other settings however you want. So now that I've told you about the features and how much I like it, this isn't like a normal ad where I'm about to tell you, hey, click the link below and use my code and blah, 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 blah. No. On this one, we're going to do a giveaway. And to enter in this giveaway, what you're going to do is go to the pinned comment in the comments in this video and tell me what song pumps you up for like adventure time or going out or getting fired up for something. And if you include a good story in there, that'll help you out, because to the person with the most likes on their comment by the end of this week, you're going to win a free speaker, compliments of Soundcore. But if you don't win the speaker, you can still go to Amazon and check out the Boom 2 Plus there, because Soundcore has thousands of 5-star reviews across all of their products, and they're reasonably priced compared to a lot of other speakers. So thank you to Soundcore for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for watching this, and good luck to everybody that enters the contest. And now, let's dive into some music. So the reason I really wanted to make this video is because earlier today, when I was at home, I saw an article that came up that included Zoltan Bathory, one of the founding members of Five Finger Death Punch, talking about gateway bands and metal and why those bands are necessary. And in typical internet fashion, there was a lot of negativity, because if you're not familiar with Five Finger Death Punch, they are one of the biggest mainstream metal bands in the world currently. They're multi-platinum. They've sold millions of records worldwide. They're headlining international festivals, and they do very well. But there are a lot of metalheads that, I mean, to really quote them, they call them lame. They don't think they're a real metal band, whatever that means. But Zoltan did say some very interesting things that I want to quote really quick before we really dive in. Recently, Five Finger Death Punch released a song that featured DMX. Yeah, the rapper DMX, a big cross collaboration. And he was on an interview recently where he had to kind of defend why they wanted to do that. There was some backlash from metalheads, and he was kind of explaining why it's important for metal to be involved in other genres and why it opens it up to different audiences. And there is a bigger interview involved in all this, which I'll throw some links in the description of this video. But the really important thing that he said was bands like Disturbed, Avenged Sevenfold, Five Finger Death Punch, these are what you guys call the gatekeeper bands. They absolutely need to exist, because without us, you're not going to be able to recruit people to the genre. We're the kind of band where people are into metal listen to us, but people are not necessarily into metal. They might listen to us, or we bring in a lot of people who are not into metal. Now, me personally, I fully 100% back everything that he said in this interview that I saw. Again, there were a lot of metalheads that were calling them lame and stuff like that. But in my opinion, and from my experience in the music industry, yeah, he's absolutely correct. And I probably should have brought this up sooner, because if you are new to this channel, I've been touring in the music industry for 18 years across a lot of different genres. But at heart, I am a metalhead. So I know the importance of trying to get new people into the genre. Now, years and years and years ago, metal was the genre for outcasts. It was for the people that feel like they didn't belong to the normal society and stuff like that. So metal was like ours. It was our thing. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of people that want to hold on to that and gatekeep that. That's the big word you hear, is gatekeepers. They don't want metal to get mainstream because they don't want normal people, what they would say, to listen to their music, which I just think is a load of shit, because if you really love metal, why wouldn't you want it to get really big? Like, you want other people getting into it. And fortunately, right now, as I was talking earlier, metal is getting bigger than it's been in a long time, and there are a ton of people getting into this. So for the rest of the video, I just want to talk about a handful of who I think are really good gateway bands in the music industry right now. And when I say right now, that's kind of what I'm focusing on, current bands. Because of course, I could sit here and list Metallica, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden for those classic metal sounds, or we could talk about new metal bands like Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and Deftones and Sevendust, or even proggy bands like Opeth, Dream Theater. There are a lot of bands that would be good gateways to get into metal depending on your taste. But the bands that I'm going to be talking about right now are very current. They're touring, they're in a lot of headlines, they've got a big social media presence. These are going to be the bands that I think are really leading the way of getting a whole new group of people into metal. So again, if you're already a metalhead and I don't list somebody you think should be included, I apologize, but this is an opinion. Get over it. Go do something else. Now, the first band I want to talk about, if you're familiar with this channel, this should come as no surprise, and this might seem biased, but I promise it's not. The first band that I think is a great gateway band right now is Electric Callboy. Now, the reason some people might think that I'm biased is because I currently tour manage Electric Callboy. I'm touring with them and I work for them. But to be fair, a lot of the things I'm going to talk about, and a lot of things I'm going to say, I've been saying long before I even knew them and was even working for them. So take it however you will. Now, Electric Callboy was formed in Germany in 2010, but it wasn't until the last few years when they really started blowing up internationally. Now, there's a lot of different mixes of genre that I've seen attributed to them, and it's kind of hard to describe what they actually are, but some of the things that I often hear is electronic metal or electronic metalcore, or quite simply party metal. Over the years, they've released 6 different studio albums. Their most recent album from 2022 is called Techno, and it wound up being their first #1 album that they've ever had. And for very good reason. In 2020, they actually had a split with one of their vocalists, because they have 2 main vocalists, and they had a new singer join the band. And around that time, they started releasing new singles and new music videos, and some of these music videos went viral. And a lot of their fans that have been there for a while saw kind of a change in the overall vibe. Some of their earlier stuff was more kind of dark and heavy and serious, where a lot of their newer music is kind of goofy and fun and just kind of uplifting as well. And people really took to that change. In a span of like 2 years, actually probably a little less, they went from just headlining like larger clubs in their home country of Germany to headlining arenas around Europe and playing festivals all over the world. And they just did another headlining tour in North America. And the coolest change to see is that all the venues get bigger every time they tour. Their first tour they ever did in the United States was clubs, anywhere between 1,000 and 3,000 capacity. Then the last time they were there, they were doing 4,000 to 6,000 capacity. So seeing the growth in these guys is really cool. But the coolest thing is to see the crowds that they're attracting, because at all of their shows, you're getting a really wide range of people coming in there. I see parents with small kids. I see people that just want to go party and have a good time. I've even seen like 60 and 70-year-old people at the shows having a good time. And the vibe is excellent. Everybody's there to party and have a good time. And I've been told by quite a few people that have never been into metal before that they love this band, and it's gotten them more into other metal bands. So if you're not familiar with the band and you want to check them out, I'll throw a link down in the description to their Spotify. Actually, I'll do that for every band we talk about today. They currently have about 4 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and if you want a good place to start, I'd suggest starting with the new song Ratatata, as well as We Got the Moves, Hypa Hypa, and Pump It. The next band I want to talk about is probably the least known band that we're going to bring up, but in my opinion, one of the best on this list. Let's talk about Bilmuri.
This chick is toast!
No, not that Bilmuri. There's actually a band called Bilmuri.
So when they ask who hurt you, point the finger at myself, but I figure you.
Bilmuri originally formed in Ohio in the United States in 2016. And this is the project of former TankTheTech vocalist Johnny Frank. TankTheTech, another metalcore band if you're not familiar, but let's move on from that. Now, admittedly, Bilmuri only came on my radar probably about a year ago. And different from where I called Electric Callboy party metal, I've actually said I think Bilmuri could be a huge artist in the country music industry if they actually got a push into it, because you can hear the country influence in some of these songs, even though overall Bilmuri is still considered a metal band. And the funny thing is that while like the country influence is kind of there in the music itself, Bilmuri has actually done collaborations with some notable country artists. Like one of the bigger songs they had was with Mitchell Tenpenny, who I think has one of the best voices in country music right now.
I keep on falling back into your arms. Yeah, the last call is never enough.
But they've also done a lot of collaborations with other metal bands and other bands in other genres. So Bilmuri's music is so cool because it's all over the place. I feel like there's something for everybody in there. And this would be a good start because there's a lot of clean vocals and stuff in there. Really catchy choruses, really fun grooves.
I will never be good enough for you. You want your hands on my neck.
There are some harsh vocals in places, but I don't know, man. I actually feel like with a bit more of a push in the next year or two, this could be one of the bigger bands in the genre because they're getting onto some really good tours. They just did Foxfest in Japan with BabyMetal. They're about to tour with Sleep Token over in Europe. Good things are happening, and I really feel like this would be a great band for people to check out if you're trying to get into metal. Over on Spotify, Bilmuri has just under 1 million monthly listeners. And if you want to check out some songs right away, I would recommend Better Hell, Empty Handed, Blindsided, and All Gas. The next band to talk about on this list, and one of my personal favorites, is Bloodywood. Bloodywood was originally formed in 2016 in New Delhi, India, and what I really think sets them apart from a lot of bands in metal right now is actually how much culture is in their music. This is one of those bands that don't really sound like anybody else. They're really doing their own thing, and they're bringing in a lot of their own sound from where they're from into a very mixed modern metal sound. They first started getting popular releasing covers on YouTube of other songs where people were really into the way that they were doing versions of their things with their unique sound. But they really started blowing up when they started releasing their own music. And again, the sound is the biggest thing with these guys that I think attracts a lot of people even outside of metal. While they have your typical metal elements like, heavy drums and down-tuned guitars and stuff like that, they also have a lot of instruments from like stereotypical Indian culture mixed in with their music. And aside from that, they have two vocalists, one that does harsh vocals and another that just does rapping parts, which helps to bring in more people that may like that more rap and hip hop sound.
Fight that goes beyond bad and good. It's a fight between can and should. So bounce to the sound, make a revolution. This is an act of war. This is the evolution.
Now, while Bloodywood only has one official studio album release as of now, as far as I know, they are in the studio working on a new album. And if you head over to Spotify, they're currently sitting at about 200,000 monthly listeners. And if you want some songs to check out, I would start at Mashi Basad, Ari Ari, Aj, and Gadar. But I am so excited to see what these guys do for the metal genre in the future because I think they have one of the most unique sounds right now. And I'm really excited to see where they go, especially from a group of dudes that are from India where we've never really gotten big international bands from India before, but these guys are getting the attention of a lot of people worldwide right now, and it's really cool. The next band on the list that I want to talk about, I have to fully admit, when I was younger, I really didn't want to like this band because as a metalhead, I used to fall into those stereotypes of, they're not real metal, But as I got older, I realized how much they're doing for the genre, and I actually really appreciate not only the music, but like the whole production and what they're doing for the scene. The next band I want to talk about is BabyMetal. The early history of BabyMetal started in Tokyo, Japan around 2010, but it wasn't until 2013 that BabyMetal was really considered their own like independent band because the three main vocalists from the group were part of another supergroup in Tokyo, but that's a whole different thing we could talk about. And in that time, they've released 4 studio albums. And while none of them have gone #1 in their home country of Japan, they've actually had #1 records in the US and the UK, which is pretty wild for an international band. But the thing that draws a lot of people to BabyMetal, especially people that aren't really into metal, is just the overall show and production of the whole thing. If you ever see BabyMetal live, it is a big theatrical production, and it's a really fun blend of different musical styles while all still being considered metal. Now, there are a lot of gatekeeping metalheads out there that really do not like BabyMetal because they are more of a production. They're like, they're not a real band. They didn't start as a garage band like all my favorite metal bands did. No, they have producers around them and they were kind of formed to be what they are, but they're still great at what they do. And there's other big metal names in the industry that back them up. One time somebody attacked BabyMetal online and Rob Zombie came to their defense. Somebody online said, "I'm a grown man and this makes me want to cry. BabyMetal is a shameful embarrassment to anything metal. Their alleged music makes me want to kill things." To which Rob Zombie responded, "Hey, they're nice kids out on the road touring. What are you doing besides being a grumpy old f***?" Another person said, "Are you kidding me, Rob? BabyMetal is J-pop, not metal, but to each their own, I guess." To which Rob Zombie responded, "These three girls had more energy than 90% of the bands we play with." And I can attest to that. I've seen BabyMetal live, and they go incredibly hard. And not just the three vocalists that are up front, their entire band is killer. And they're also crossing boundaries with their music. Recently, they had the release with Electric Callboy called Ratatata. But they've also done collaborations with people like Lil Uzi Vert, Tom Morello, Bring Me the Horizon. BabyMetal is all over the place, and everything that they're doing is good for the genre. Over on Spotify, they've got about 4 million monthly listeners right now. And if you want some songs to check out, some of my personal favorites, I've already mentioned Ratatata because that was a release with Electric Callboy, and I mentioned it in their little breakdown. So I would highly recommend checking out Gimme Chocolate, Headbanger, Megatsuna, and Papa Ya is probably one of my favorites. That's a good start. The next band on the list we're going to talk about, whether you like metal or not, if you've spent any time online, you've probably heard this band's name, Sleep Token. Now, this one for me personally is interesting because I will fully admit I actually understand and appreciate what they're doing for the genre more than I actually really get into their music. But that's not to say I don't like their music, because I do. I've just seen how many people they've pulled into the metal world and expanded on, and it is so impressive and really cool. Sleep Token was originally formed in London, England in 2016, but it wasn't until a couple years ago when they really started blowing up. It was a mixture of some of the music videos they were putting out, as well as some of their songs going viral on places like TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. The band has now released 3 studio albums, and their last album from 2023, Take Me Back to Eden, was critically acclaimed, and it was a top 10 in like a dozen different countries worldwide. It even broke into the top 20 in the US. And for a band like this, that is absolutely incredible. And one of the cooler things that brings people into this band is the mystery behind them. All 4 of the band members are virtually unknown. They wear masks on stage, they wear costumes on stage, and they keep their identities very private, which has kind of created this mysterious allure where it kind of makes people even more into them trying to figure out the secrets of the band. But the music itself is really cool, man. Like, this is a band that at one point can have like brutally low-tuned breakdowns and stuff like that. And then go into like the sexiest sounding jazz pieces you've ever heard. And it has been a very long time since I've seen people like dive into a band like this. I'm talking the fan base. Like, I haven't seen fans that are this crazy about a specific band in a very long time. Now, while they've done very well touring over the last couple of years, in the last year or so, it's been nuts, man. They just had a headlining show rather, at Wembley Arena this past December that sold out in less than 10 minutes. There are no other metal bands that are doing stuff like that right now. They also announced that they've left their old record label, Spinefarm Records, and have signed with RCA Records. So for a band like this to be signing with a major label is something that you don't really see nowadays. I mean, We haven't really seen that since we were back in the nu metal days in the early 2000s. So everything that they have going on, the music that they bring to the table, the live performance, the mysteriousness of the band, it's all made a lot of people, and a lot of them that were never metalheads, really get into this band. Over on Spotify right now, they've got about 3.6 million monthly listeners. And if I had to give you some personal suggestions, I would recommend checking out The Summoning, Granite, Aqua Regia, Jaws, Chokehold. Man, I guess I actually like this band a little more than I thought I did, but yeah, start with those songs and I bet you'll be into it. The next band on the list I want to talk about is Spiritbox. Now, Spiritbox originally formed in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada in 2017. And it was originally founded by husband and wife duo, guitarist Mike Stringer and vocalist Courtney LaPlante. Now, they were in a different metal band together, I Wrestled a Bear once, and they originally left that band to start Spiritbox, so they had more freedom to do their own thing artistically. Now, in the first few years of Spiritbox being a band, they did release a lot of singles, and they built a pretty big cult following. But it wasn't until 2020 when they released the music video for Holy Roller that they really started blowing up. And that was a lot due to YouTube reactions and it being shared on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, because the music video was very confusing for a lot of people that have never heard the band, because it did feature Courtney, their vocalist, on screen. But with the way it was filmed, a lot of people didn't know that that was actually the vocalist that was doing harsh vocals, and kind of blew a lot of people's minds. And in 2021, they released their debut studio album, Eternal Blue, and that was released to critical acclaim, man. All the editors at all these music outlets loved this album, and a lot of those editors ranked it at #1 of their top albums of the year list. And not only did it go on to chart in a bunch of countries all over the world, but it led to them getting on a lot of really big tours with a lot of really big bands. And to see what they've done for the genre, especially with Courtney being a female vocalist in metal and doing a lot of harsh vocals, there's been a lot of young women that have started getting into metal because of her. She's become kind of a role model and an icon in the metal scene. It's been really cool to see. On top of that, some of the collaborations they've done. Specifically last year, they did a rock remix of Cobra by Megan Thee Stallion.
I ain't going, no emotion, back outside, back in motion.
Which saw a huge bump in their Spotify numbers because Megan Thee Stallion's fans were like, oh, who is this band? And had a lot of them checking them out. So that cross-genre collaboration, like we've talked about with other bands, is huge, and it gets more people into metal. Right now over on Spotify, they've got about 2.1 million monthly listeners, and if you've never listened to them and you want to dive in, I would highly recommend checking out Circle With Me, Rule of Nines, Holy Roller, and Hurt You. The next band on the list might surprise some people because even in the genre of metal, these guys are kind of far away from the other bands that I've been talking about, but the next band I want to bring up is Sabaton. I already know there's some people watching this video like, Sabaton, what the f***? Yeah, Sabaton. And the reason I bring that up is because they have undoubtedly brought in a lot of non-metalheads into the metal scene just because of what they do with metal music. So if you're not familiar with Sabaton, they're originally founded in 1999 in Sweden, and even today, they are one of Sweden's biggest, most legendary metal bands. A lot of metalheads would consider this band more of a power metal band. There's not really harsh vocals. It's got more of a traditional power metal sound, but really what brings people into this music and catches people's attention is actually the topics that they write albums and do songs about, because we consider Sabaton like a history metal band. The vast majority of Sabaton's albums are actually about historical events, mainly wars and battles and other significant events in history and stuff. And I'm not kidding. I've learned more about history, like world history, over the years listening to this band than I ever learned about in school.
On the 8th of October, he went, meet a sergeant for his deeds.
Some of their albums aren't about specific events as a whole and just have different stories from different eras, but they do have some concept albums, like one about the rise and fall of the Swedish Empire, and they have 2 albums now that encompass events from World War I.
Break war and make it a take war.
And live, it is absolutely a show to see. Loaded with pyrotechnics, special effects, lots of cool stage props and stuff. I mean, their drum riser is a goddamn tank. Literally, I'm not kidding. I mean, it's wild. They've released 10 studio albums since they've founded, and a lot of those albums have been number ones in multiple countries all over the world. And taking this back to what they've actually done to bring in non-metalheads into the scene, I've gone to some of their live shows, and I've seen people of all ages, of all different backgrounds. Like, I've heard people tell me that this was their gateway metal band because they were so interested by the history of the stuff they were singing about that they got into the band, and then it got them into more metal bands. So that is what makes these guys really stand out to me and why I think they are a good gateway band for metal. And on top of that, they are one of the most respected bands in the metal scene. Currently at about 3.3 million monthly listeners on Spotify. If you've never listened to Sabaton, some of my personal favorite songs that you could check out are To Hell and Back, Attack of the Dead Men, Ghost Division, and Night Witches. And the last band on this list, some of you are going to think I'm trolling. Some of you are going to think I'm not being serious, but I want you to know, looking dead straight at the camera right now, I'm being dead serious. The last band on this list for today is Nickelback.
Look at this photograph.
Seriously, this is the band that everybody loves to hate, but I don't think anybody realizes what they have actually done to get people into heavier music. Nickelback was originally formed in Hanna, Alberta, Canada in 1995, and I don't think we have to dive into a lot of history here because unless you've been sleeping under a rock, I think everybody knows who Nickelback is. But since they've been a band, they've released 10 studio albums. They've been certified gold. They've been certified platinum. They've been certified diamond. They've sold over 50 million records worldwide, Juno Award winning, Grammy Award winning, tons more awards than I could ever think of. The band is very notable. But the thing I really want to focus on is what really makes them a gateway band. And to me, it is their sound. Because while a lot of people would classify them as a rock band, or jokingly, we call them a butt rock band, very radio rock friendly, they've been a good stepping stone for people to get into heavier music than them. I actually have a lot of friends of mine that I grew up with that never liked metal, that whether they grew up on classic rock or country or whatever, Nickelback was like heavy to them at the time. But they told me they got more and more into Nickelback and spent more time with their albums and, heard riffs like this. And this. And this. I mean, come on, these guys fucking rock, dude, really. But my friends that like them, liked their heavier stuff and wanted to get into heavier stuff from there. So I would absolutely consider Nickelback a gateway metal band for a lot of people out there that may not normally ever get into something heavy. Now, currently on Spotify, they have 21 million monthly listeners. And their song that pretty much everybody knows, How You Remind Me, has over 1 billion plays. But listen, if you don't believe me, if you have never given Nickelback a chance and you're just like, dude, there's no way that these guys can be a gateway band and there's no way these guys rock, just do me a favor, head over to Spotify, and I'll give you a couple suggestions. Start with these songs that are my personal favorite that I actually think show how much Nickelback can rock. Because of You, Animals, Side of a Bullet, Next Go Round, and Million Miles an Hour. God, I can't wait to see what the YouTube comments look like after suggesting this one. But that's going to be it from me for this short list. And as I said at the beginning, this is very subjective. I know there's going to be people out there like, why didn't you mention this band? Or why did you mention this band? These are just some recommendations that I would give people in the current climate that we're in that want to get into metal. Like, these are some of the bands that I listen to regularly that I think other people might like as well. But if you're watching this and have suggestions, drop them in the comments because, man, I haven't listened to everything. There might be some comments that you guys leave that gets me into new bands that I haven't checked out, which is always super cool. But also, there's other people reading the comments too, and you might get other people into some of your favorite bands. So thank you for taking the time to watch this. I'm on a ton of other social media if you want to follow along. My handle on everything is pretty much at TankTheTech. I also stream on Twitch from time to time. You can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech. But until next time, wherever you are in the world, be safe, be kind to each other. I love you all, and I will see you very soon.